Good afternoon, everybody. I'm gonna call the 3rd of August meeting to order for the Selectmen. We have a full board here tonight. We have Jenny Angel. We have Steve Felton, Steve Heath, Ann Barney, and I'm Andy Fitch. And we also have Ron Beard at the table. He is our town manager. Ann is gonna lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, Ann. So the first item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing on the electric rate study.
Mr. Mayhew.
Yes,
You're up.
Okay,
where do I plug in?
we don't have a screen tonight, so I print it off. You want one?
Yeah.
But
First of all, yeah, okay. That's just things.
It's all yours, sir.
Thank you. My name is Mayhew Subi. I'm employed by Powerline Models, PLM, in Marlborough, Massachusetts. Sorry, for the last 5 years. I have been for 40 years designing retail electric rates for public power systems in New England. I have probably designed retail electric rates for more than half of the public power utilities in New England over that period of time. I also help those utilities manage their wholesale power purchase agreements. I've done that work for the Hampton Co-op and also for the for Wolfboro across the lake. And so I'm going to walk you through this presentation, which is really an overview of how we go about designing retail electric rates, sort of from the bottom up. I'm going to talk about what the objectives are of rate design. I'm going to talk about cost allocation, which is really the engine that drives rate design, and then talk about the rate design process. So we're on to slide 3. I like to identify these. There are probably other objectives, but I like to say that the 5 objectives are adequacy, fairness, competitiveness, stability, and clarity. Adequacy means that the rate and any other revenues should cover the utility's operating expenses and fund the renewal and expansion of the plant in order to continue to provide reliable service. We measure adequacy of rates by the overall rate of return, and that is revenue minus expenses, net income, and as a percentage of your plant investment. So think of it as a return on your investment. You've invested so many millions of dollars in your plant, and you'd like to be able to earn a return on that in order to fund the continued maintenance and renewal of the plant. We also aim for fairness, and that means that the rate paid by each class of customer should reflect as accurately as possible the cost of providing service to that class of customer. It costs you more to provide service to a residential customer than it does to provide a large industrial customer, having to do with economies of scale, also the time of use that the customer is using the electricity. Electricity costs more during on-peak periods, costs a lot more during a peak hour each month. And so we like to measure not only the overall rate of return, but each individual customer class rate of return. We also like to look at competitiveness. You want the cost of energy, each customer to be competitive with the cost of energy that's paid by comparable customers to other energy providers in your immediate vicinity. So we do typical bill comparison, we look at how your typical residential customer bill compares to the co-op bill or to Eversource, I guess they call themselves these days. So we look at that. We also want your rates to be stable. You don't want them to fluctuate excessively from month to month or year to year. Customers notice that. If you have a rate that goes up and down every month, the customer doesn't see it go down, customer sees it go up. So you want it to be steady and predictable. And so we look at the month to month changes and also design the rate so that it doesn't have to change over time. Ideally, you'd love to be able to put a rate in place and you set it again for 5 years if your costs allow you to do that. And finally, you want clarity. You want the rate and components to be easily understood by the customer. And you like the customer to be able to actually calculate the bill on their own without having to use a computer. So clarity is one of those things that you know when you see it. You look at an Eversource bill, you're not seeing it. You look at a national bill, you've got a nice clear bill. Customers know what they're getting. So I'm going to talk a little bit about cost allocation. The cost allocation process is basically assigning your revenue requirements, your expenses to each customer class on the basis of how they contribute to your incurring that expense. And to do that, we divide the expenses, classify them into 3 general classes of expenses. There's customer related classes, there's demand related costs, and then there are energy related costs. I'll talk about each of those individually. Customer expenses are costs that are related just to the number of customers, not the amount of energy that those customers use. So those are your metering and billing expenses, your customer accounting expenses, and the cost of the meters, services, everything that is dedicated, all your plant and equipment that's dedicated to serving one particular customer. Demand is a cost that's related to the maximum rate that the customer is using energy. And that's because the facilities that you build to serve your customers have to be sized to supply that maximum demand, regardless of when it occurs. If you have a large customer at the end of a long feeder and they have a peak at 11 o'clock at night, you still need to supply that peak, and you're going to size the service, you're going to size the feeders and the transformers to meet that maximum demand. So for a large customer in particular, you want to know what that maximum demand is, which is why you bill those customers a demand charge each month. And that's a way of directly attributing those costs from a customer. And there's also on the demand side, you have on your purchase power, you pay a lot for capacity and you pay even more for transmission. And you bill for those 2 things on the basis of what your system demand is during that hour each month when that peak demand occurs on the Eversource transmission system. So you want to try to measure how much each customer is contributing to that monthly peak demand, because then you're sure that you're going to recover those transmission costs from each customer. And finally, there's energy costs, and some of the energy costs are, they do vary somewhat by time, and we try to take that into account. On-peak energy that you purchase is more expensive than off-peak energy. And it's it's about half of your total bill is the energy cost that you pay to your supplier. So that's another important thing that you have to take into account when you're designing rates. So, basically what you do is you try to add up all the costs of serving your residential customers, for instance, and divide that by the number of kilowatt hours that you're selling those residential customers. And that's what you need to be at a minimum recovering from that group of customers. To begin with, we start by looking at a historic test year, what we call it, historic test year cost of service study. I know that more. And we then look at a pro forma future test year cost of service study, and that's what you design the rates around, and then you develop those rates. In the historic test year cost of service, we take a full year's historic data. Here we had the luxury of 2 years of historic data, 2024, 2025. And we take all those expenses, we allocate them across the customer classes, and then we compare those expenses to what you actually collected from the customers in that test year. And you then calculate from that how much you were earning from each class of customer. And so we look at the chart, this table here, which says rate of return by customer class 2025. And so the first line there is the total annual revenue. And that's the revenue that you collected from each of the 6 customer classes that you can set. Well, yeah, there might be a couple of it that aren't represented here that are sort of small, but residential, your general service 3-phase, your space heat customers, your general service single phase, industrial primary, and then municipal street lighting. So those are actual revenues from 2025. The next line are the allocated expenses for each of those groups of customers, which gives you the net income or return. Now, for the system as a whole, you lost about $95,000 in 2025. But when you look at the customer classes, you lost quite a bit more on the residential sales, and you made reasonable profit actually on the non-residential, the general service and industrial and space. Those all made a pretty decent return. So at the end of the day, you only had about a negative 2% return on your investment. Now, obviously, that's not enough. You want to be able to have be able to put money in, keep your cash reserves healthy, have money available to invest in projects, etc. So that it indicates that that there's a need for an increase. I think that next slide, I covered that. The negative rate of return is 1.8%, 95,000. The individual rates of return vary pretty widely. It's a minus 12.6% on residential and all the way up to almost 22% on the single phase general service class. It's not unusual to see a wide range of rates of return, especially with municipal utilities, because municipal utilities tend to favor the residents who are the owners of the utility, if you will. And so municipal utilities don't try to make profit off their residential customers, but you have to kind of fine tune it so that you're not losing too much, and so that you don't actually have the other customer subsidized residential. You don't mind if the residential class breaks even or even loses a little bit, but we usually try to design that to break even. And I like to see maybe a 20% swing between the highest and the lowest rate of return. And you're a little above that. You're a little over 30%. So could bring things back together get them a little bit closer. The next step is gonna be to develop some rate designs and that will produce adequate revenue and to send the right price signals to the customer and hopefully reduce some of that subsidization. You can see on slide 19 that for the last 2 years, there's been a negative net income. I mean, that's actually a pretty small negative, so you're not losing huge amounts of money, but you would like to actually earn some, you're depleting your cash reserves if nothing else. And the main thing that's going on here is that there are increases in the cost of purchase power. Your own operating costs in running the utility are quite manageable and have actually been trending downward, but the cost beyond your control, the power market is what the power market is, and right now the power market is unstable and pretty high. So when we look forward, we're gonna have to look at what the budgeted power cost is for the rest of this year or next year, and then the rest of your budgeted expenses. And where does that leave you in terms of needing enough revenue to meet your objectives? So the objectives that we've talked about with the town are to increase the net income to about 215,000 target that we're talking about getting to. We also have some ideas that I would recommend to simplify the rate structure. Most of your rates have a number of different block rates for that tend to decrease with higher usage. That essentially are one, they're not justified by economics because it doesn't cost you less to provide more energy. Doesn't really cost you more, but it's better to have that just be flat. You can go to time of use because on-peak energy is more expensive than off-peak, but that's a really difficult thing to implement. You've got metering and billing problems and doing that, and it's probably not worth the effort. The electric heat rate that's another rate structure that's sort of antique. I've been eliminating electric heating rates in municipal utility that I've worked for the last 30 years. They've been hanging around, and it's a little tricky to do. Luckily, yours is not a huge discount for the large use of electricity. So eliminating that block is going to be much of an impact on the customers, and it'll help simplify your billing process. You'll only have a single rate, and it'll be all one cost. And then also we talked about creating a rate for large municipal customers, especially the water and sewer department. A lot of municipal utilities will have essentially a break-even rate for town use of electricity because it's sort of a hidden tax, if you will, if you're charging the town for trying to earn profit from town for their use of electricity. And then finally, of course, as we already talked about, reduce, and maybe that can be done over a period of time, over a number of years, reduce that amount of the subsidy to the residential side. So those are the rate design objectives that we talked about. And that's the end of my direct presentation. I'm happy to answer questions that anyone might have.
I got a couple of questions. So right now, the water and sewer department charges go into which rate structure?
There are, those are, I believe all of those customers are on the general service three-phase rate.
Okay,
There's a demand charge on that. That's really large customers are on that.
and so you're recommending an increase in net income to $215,000. And right now, this past year, we made $95,000. So basically, we've got to make up at whatever time we can do that, $300,000.
That's right.
And of that $300,000, if capital improvements were not part of the previous year, that would be additional costs that we would have to build in. Is that accurate?
Well, the capital improvements are, I mean, you fund those out of your reserve, or you fund them with debt. So,
Or wouldn't you, just a question, wouldn't you want to try to build in some amount that if you know you're gonna have to spend, name a number, $1 million, something, for something in 10 years,
right.
wouldn't you want to start saving for that and build that into the structure?
Yes, in fact, we have built a 5-year forecast of revenues and expenses. And that model will show cash reserves changing over time. And hopefully you can do that. When I was talking earlier about you don't want to have to keep increasing your rates. The idea being you'd like to be able to put rates into effect now that you can keep in place for 5 years and meet your expected capital program.
Right.
Well, yeah, 3.5 years left on the power purchase. Or 4 years, 3 something.
3.5, I think.
Yeah, so be revisiting all that again when it comes contract time.
Yep.
Right, and you don't, there's no way to know today what that,
Right.
what the successor rate is gonna be in the next power contract.
Then we just did get a almost 10% increase on the wheeling fees from Eversource. So we haven't done any adjustments for that yet. That's why, we're working that into the plan also.
Yeah, and there's a bond repayment that's starting next year that also has been built into the rate. So that's we'll be looking at that, and that's a challenge. But there are also some forecast decreases in costs, operating costs.
Expenses, yeah.
Yeah, and this is if you could just educate me a little bit, because I see where on the standard residential, they're not covering their costs. Then we go to the space heat. Now, it used to be, and I don't know what they are now, but it used to be with electric heat, you had a separate meter for electric heat. Are these people electric, or how do we know they have electric heat, and are they paying a lesser rate because they use more electricity, or how does that work?
Yeah, it is a rate. The first 500 kilowatt hours are the same as the base residential rate, and then there's a small decrease, maybe a cent, not even a cent, for anything over 500 kilowatt hours. So it is a single meter. It's not 2 meters, and I don't know what kind of verification you have for that, but essentially, if you eliminate that rate, then it's become an issue.
So why then, though, is a space heater, we're covering our costs, even though they might be paying slightly less per kilowatt hour
Right.
than the residential? Is it because of the amount of all the other expenses that go to support the account, or?
It has to do with when the times when the electricity is being used. A typical space heat customer uses a lot of its usage. A large percentage of usage is off peak.
At night, this is.
At night, yeah, and then, so it's not, that customer is not contributing nearly as much to your transmission and capacity peaks. Your capacity peak also, which is a big piece, is in the summer. And the electric heat customer isn't contributing anything more than a regular residential customer during that summer peak. So it actually costs you less to serve an electric heat customer.
Okay, so when you figured out this percentage, you're not looking at what they used and what the rate, you're making these other adjustments.
Yeah, and we look in a fair amount of detail as to what the shape of an electric heat
Okay,
the customer load is compared to a base residential customer.
so do you know, do we know who has electric heat or not?
Mhm.
How do we know that?
When they sign up for the account, they can check off what
Electric
they,
heat,
if they have electric heat or if they're oil heat, they'll be as
Okay.
regular residential.
oh, then they get the same rate, but they check it off, and that's how you know.
Yep.
So those are the people who, if you check that
Yeah.
out, get a discount after so many kilowatts or something.
It's within the blocks, yeah. The
Okay.
more you use, the less it gets.
But you have to have it done not to get it, so my question was, the electric car charging, which I know nothing about, but they don't get the discounts because they don't have the electric
We don't have a category
for that, so
Yeah,
so they just pay the rate,
Yeah,
okay.
That's perhaps in the future.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily.
well, and it's kind of incentivized for if you have electric baseboard heat, if you're gonna see a lesser rate, yeah, I got electric heat because I'm gonna use a lot more power, and we know monthly who's got electric heat and
You
not
can tell,
in the winter.
yeah, it's pretty, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can forecast it just
Okay.
by heating degree, cooling degree.
Right,
heating degrees.
okay, okay, good, thanks.
And the model that he came up with is pretty cumbersome and pretty detailed, so it's pretty awesome.
Okay. Thanks.
Cumbersome, I like that.
That's about it. There's a lot of input
But
there.
with simplicity sometimes is best, because we do need our constituents, we have to understand it,
Right.
so they, so.
Well, we're not looking to shift to like a big
Right,
electric company, that
Yeah.
you can't read the bill. Less is
Yeah,
more.
and that's really
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
art of doing this, is
Yeah.
is taking all that data, and every time we do this, there's more data available. And making it understandable to the customers and to you, the decision makers.
So, Marissa and I are working on the electric budget. I'll be getting with Craig and, yeah, gonna massage that budget so we know exactly what we're gonna be looking to present to you folks for the 27 budget. Then we can work out the finer details on where we need to go with the rate. We pretty much know what we're gonna be paying for the substation, so it's just that moving target is the budget, that's gonna be your expenditures.
Well, this was a much needed exercise. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not simple math,
No, but
Really
it's a project we needed to do.
and sometime, maybe sometime I can show you the reports that we get from, where we buy power. And the detail, and by the hour, the peaks and off peak, and it's
pretty consistent.
oh, it's interesting, once you get it figured out what you're reading. And, people could really think about conserving if you can lower your on demand, but in some cases, it's just not possible. Businesses want to operate those hours.
Yep.
More efficient with your appliances, same thing with like water department, efficiency with modern plumbing,
Well, in rate design, we talk a lot about price signal, the price signal that you're sending to the customer. Because you want the customer to be able to respond to the price signal in an appropriate way. You want them to pay more when the cost is high. You want them to pay less when the cost is less. And a lot of what we've had to do in the past is to just average everything together. So you don't have, the customer's not getting any message that they should use less electricity in the late afternoon on the hottest day of the summer. There's no, they might hear an alert on the radio, but we're working on technology that will help get that information to the customer, or even better, to a computer that's running the customer's home, that allows the customer to respond to a price signal and use less when the cost is high. As it is now, the rates are it's kind of a blunt instrument, the electric rate that you're charging the customer.
Can our meters do any of this?
Oh, we can monitor the meters.
I mean,
yeah.
the meter, like if people use electricity in the evening and it's kind of through the meters, can we tell when they're using
So
electricity?
if we bought that when we bought the meters, we didn't buy that plan.
But we can
But
add
if
it,
we bought that plan with Eaton, you could monitor your peak usage and start your dishwasher at 10 o'clock at night. And you'd be able to see it, but we didn't buy that, but our meters do have that capability.
That's the customer interface
It's
monitor.
customer interface.
So
We didn't buy it, it's possible.
but it could be added, I mean, for a cost, obviously, and if we don't know.
If
it
in
may
the
not be
future we
possible.
had the money to do it, and then you, like he said, you teach people how
Yeah,
to, not run their appliances at 6 o'clock at night right after they clean up.
right,
Then the town would be better on power. If we all used our power and
a
not
little
peak.
more efficient.
Cause you see the report that Ron's doing, it's, the peak power load is like from, 5 PM to 10 PM, then it drops. And if we could get our power there and buy it there, then that's better for us. But people don't know because you'd be able to log in and see where your power was if we bought that plan.
And we're not offering that,
We didn't buy that extra
right,
package.
I mean, that technology is really expensive and it's a lot
might
of,
not be effective.
it's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose. It's a huge amount of data there, you gotta be able to do something with it.
Yeah, you gotta simplify it.
You have the data, I mean, I had access to it and, you know, each individual customer, their usage every hour for a whole year.
Wow,
There's a
got it.
massive amount of data, but there's really nothing you can do with it other than say, okay, this is how this is what you're costing us, because of the way your load is shaped.
But generally speaking, the more power you can use, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, after 10 o'clock, as opposed to doing it earlier than that, the better off we are.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, and pretty much any time outside of that, you mentioned that period, basically, you know, between 5 and 9 is really
Yeah.
the window, and it's really only like 4 or 5 days a month that's served, but you know, how do you get that information in a form that customers can actually use to take action? That's where the problem is.
Frank, you had a question?
Yeah, well, we looked at the, budget committee, it looked like our usage as a town was staying somewhat flat, looking for not really not that much. And, we have this whole year Vermont power contract that we were talking about, and my concern is these wheeling charges and the transmission extra costs that we get charged. We may have 4 more years to do. And is there a way we could look at maybe couple different scenarios of rate structures that get us through, so we're not, I know this year we had some extra costs just because we thought it was coming, it was, the electric budget there. But, that was my fault.
Yeah.
So you can you pick something now, and then 2 years from now, we're ready for
Yeah, I think we're pretty much locked in at that rate. The risk we have is requiring more, that's a penalty. You pay more if we go over the anticipated monthly purchase. So spurring conservation will keep us in line. Unfortunately, the way I look at it, and I'm not engineering anything, but the more efficient we get, that means the less we consume. And the clause in the contract is they're expected to sell you X amount of megawatts a month. If you go under that, they'll put it back out into the grid to get bought up by someone else. My thought is there's such a shortage of energy now, we're not at risk of penalties for having to give back for conservation. We're at risk of not conserving and going over the projected allotment, and then we pay the penalties and the extra wheeling fees. So I think we just need to get more efficient with what we do. I think we really truly need this rate structure, and for them to tell them to do us this deep dive analysis, getting into the weeds, because doing simple math and then throwing out this is what we need to charge you. I think history's shown that that doesn't work so well. The last rate increase covered the cost of the power, but it did not fix the subsidies that you've been doing with the inadequacies of the rate structure. You know, the different, you know, you kind of want to get to a goose egg or as close as you can within 3 to 5%, as loss on the residential, but then you absorb everything through the other classes and try to spread it out so no one is getting hit harder than the other, because we're trying to attract more business. We don't want to make the energy cost unaffordable. So we've got to walk that balancing beam there and try to spread it out. And that's what these folks are going to help us with.
And I know we talked about this, and other people have asked this, and I've seen this, is our rates as they are now are correctly significantly less than our.
You want me to read off the research I did today?
Maybe a couple of key points.
So as of today, and I had Mr. Felton called me up and he said, so what's everybody else getting these days? You know, what's everybody else charging? So I looked at Eversource, and currently, now this is based on 500 kilowatts. Eversource, with all the taxes and fees, we're looking at 155 a month. The Hampshire Electric Co-op, and I'm a co-op customer where I live. I didn't realize it went up in February. My wife pays the bill, but so in February they did a cost increase, and so a 500 kilowatt bill is 139.27, and then they just did another increase August 1st. And this is all on their website, so I'm not, you know, doing any simple math here. It's what they publish. They just went up to $152.57 on the same 500 kilowatts. As of today, I had the utility office plug in a residential rate at 500 kilowatts, and all in it would be $114.35.
Yeah.
You're well below.
Yeah.
And you know, one concern, obviously, if you're losing money on those residential customers, and they're much more competitive because of that.
Yeah.
The old maximum in business is you can't make that up with, if you're losing on every kilowatt hour, you can't make that up with volume. You can't increase sales and expect to do better.
I guess the point is, if we're that much less now, we know we need to close that gap, we're still gonna be in good shape compared to.
Absolutely.
All the examples that we've run so far show that you remain very competitive in all the rate classes.
And I think in some of the cases, we're still $30 cheaper with what the other utilities, Unitil, Eversource, everybody's forecasting for increases. We're still competitive. You know, Marissa and I are working, like I said, still working on the budget, because that's kind of, you need to have a good idea of what your budget's going to be for 27. Then we got to factor that into the model and then come up with, you know, I'm thinking probably a two-step, a two-tier, not all out of the gate at once. Maybe do one, and then 6 months later or whatever, we'll do the second phase of it. We're not at a place where we can put those numbers out there yet, because we're still working through things. But I thought it was very important for I wish more people here, but I think a lot of people probably watch the videos later. It's very important to get educated on how this all works and the amount of math and all these different charts and peaks and off peaks and wheeling fees. It's not, we're paying $29 or whatever it is, $72 a megawatt, then you divide by 1,000, and here's your cost, and I've got to allocate it to 2,000 customers. There's a lot more that goes into this. And we pay, you know, peak fees and everything else too, so.
And then we have a lot of people who live on pretty tight budgets.
Yeah.
And so we really would have to, I would like to say that we have information campaign to get it out, so people are expecting it, so they're not, oh my God, not expecting.
Well, no, they get a plan for it. Yeah.
Yeah, plan for it, and, because it's hard, there's, I mean, and if you try to get some of the residential up to where they probably should be, then they're gonna be going up a greater percentage, maybe, I don't know, but everything's gone up. For, so it just makes it hard, we have to do it, but
It's,
try to,
and
Yeah.
people still need to realize it's an enterprise fund. It's a business. It's not
Yeah.
part of a municipality
Right.
where we're using tax dollars and all this
we
stuff.
can't do that.
It's a standalone and it's gotta stay viable.
Yes, it
We've
does,
gotta
it
have,
does.
we've gotta keep money in the bank, because when that power purchase comes through, we just got one the other day for $135,000. And then we've got $6,000 of wheeling fees. That's, you gotta make sure you've got it all covered.
I just think
Yeah.
how we can
Yeah.
avoid surprising people, some people are gonna miss it completely, that's going on, but whatever we can do, so.
So we're gonna do it, we're gonna, yeah,
So they can plan.
you just can't do it.
Okay, well, that's painful.
That's why we scheduled this hearing to, get the presentation, and hopefully people will watch the video and,
People do. Yeah, they do.
come to town hall, come see me.
They do.
My door's open. Frank knows where it is.
And before we change the rates, we have to have another public hearing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You don't have any questions, Ian? Let me put you on the spot or nothing?
Hey, do we have any more discussion on this subject?
I think this is a good process to get where we need to be.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you for hearing me.
Appreciate you making the trip up.
Well, except for downpour concert, it was a very nice.
We've had one or two of those.
Just a couple.
Can we put this on, right?
Yeah.
So that voters can see.
Yeah, we'll put it on the
Have a
website.
good night.
Yeah.
Safe travels under the electric. Thank
Just somewhere so that when they go to the town website, they know how to find it easily.
Yeah. Okay.
Both places, it would be.
Yeah, it won't hurt. Yeah, it won't.
But right at the very beginning.
I think it was a worthwhile investment.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It was much needed.
Next item on the agenda is the town manager's report.
I thought this was gonna go longer, so I didn't count this for, but, fire department in July responded to 40 medical calls, 23 fire and rescue, and 7 motor vehicle accidents. Work is progressing with the new asset management software. They just had another meeting today. I think you were on that too, weren't you, Craig?
Take care of.
Pretty bad.
What's that?
Pretty big.
Yeah, it's all for all the town departments.
All
We'll
departments.
figure it out.
Okay, good.
Is there any kind of a timeline?
End of the year.
End of the year, I think, hopefully, there's a lot of assets in play.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, that's
A
what I
lot
was.
of data, but
Yeah. And the electric department's gonna be pretty cumbersome with all their stuff,
It's more original, so.
transformers and all that.
And that'll include maintenance as well.
Yeah,
So you're tagging all the.
yeah, actually, I think Craig's looking forward to the maintenance part of it.
no, it's gonna be good. Everything's paper and it's hard to find stuff, though. Be able to find stuff a lot easier.
And
with
you
a
have,
spreadsheet.
It's gonna be all digital.
and you'll have the history, as we go forward, you'll have the history, maintenance history and all that stuff on things.
Yeah, I think we have, well, everything's paper now. We could scan all these papers.
No, I'm talking, no, going forward,
Oh, yeah.
once it's implemented.
The old stuff will be archived.
Yeah, like when
Right,
when
yeah,
I fix something, I can scan the invoice right into the system.
Yeah.
And then I'll know what I did in, 2026.
Yeah.
To that specific vehicle or whatever it is,
Yeah.
it'd be good.
that'd be good.
And I believe the work's gonna start possibly next week on the substation. Unless something changed that I'm not aware of.
Well, I don't think they're coming, Shane didn't think they were coming that quick now for some reason, but I didn't talk to them, but we're supposed to, we gotta cut some trees down
Yeah,
and, prepare a trench for that, 2 circuits.
Yeah.
So they can run the pipe.
Yeah, so what's gonna happen is, Icy Reed's gonna do all the groundwork, slabs and everything within the bounds of the substation area. Then Craig and his team are gonna do all the digging and trenching, and our crew will set the poles, so the circuits leaving the substation gonna go underground to the transmission poles up by Collins Street.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys, I met with Eversource too about the property lines and, as long as we pull it over 3 feet, they're okay with it being right on the property line, but we'll be on all our property. I walked in with the Eversource guy, so we move it 3 feet towards our shop and the building will be going to be done.
Yeah.
Just gotta cut down those 2 oak trees because they're almost right on the root system, so.
Yeah.
They're gonna work on that, Shane's on vacation the rest of the week, so. Nora and Dale are gonna work a little bit at a time, we're gonna help him when we have time, but.
Yep.
To start getting those trees down, and next week we can trench.
And what's the anticipated timeline of when you think it'll actually be up and operational?
All the prep work will be done. What, by October?
Yeah, then they gotta wait for the rest of the equipment to come in, which is probably,
After Thanksgiving, probably.
yeah, I mean, he's talking about winter. As the
Yeah.
lead time on the equipment,
Right.
5 weeks.
Yeah, well, they shortened it up because they sent a bunch of documentation about the need and everything, and the emergency. So that the factory's speeding up the lead time. So everything's gonna be prepped, the 2, slab on grade, the platforms, everything's gonna be done. They're just gonna, when the equipment shows up, they'll put it in place, hook it up, and then they're gonna cut it over. And they said there's gonna be no interruption.
No interruption.
So they're gonna have both switch gears live. And then they're just gonna discontinue the old switch gear and everybody's gonna be carried on the new one. And then we'll eventually get the old switch gear out of that building. We're gonna repurpose that, put a garage door in, and that'll be dry storage for wire or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and better protect the spare parts and transformers and all that stuff.
And then once that's up and operational, sometime after that, we could technically do net metering.
Yeah, well, you gotta work it out with Eversource and
Right.
everything, and that kind of plays into what he was talking about, you know, if, once we have that circuit available, then we can start allowing solar to be installed. A lot of your problems are the on peak. Well, when do you generate solar energy?
On peak.
On peak.
Yeah,
Obviously, you don't pay market rate for solar energy, it'll be at a lesser rate. Anybody that has solar knows
Right.
you don't get market rate. But if we're able to utilize a lot of solar in the town during the daytime to offset our peaks in the our spikes in the demand rate,
yeah,
that could benefit National Electric because we're not being, so how it works, they take your usage during that hour and the peak, your peak demand, and that's the multiplier. So if you can lower your peak demand by substituting
Other internal,
other power internally,
and lowest.
it kind of lowers the multiplier for your overall power purchase. It's not that simple, but you know, in layman's terms, if you generate, when you generate solar is during the daylight hours, that's during the peak demand. A lot of your peak demand is during the daylight hours. The more solar we have in town in the future, hopefully, the less it's gonna cost us for the redistribution of power that we bring in from an outside source,
right,
out of state.
Yep.
So that's kind of a good objective to
sure.
basically. And now, you know, with the 2 switch gears and having that extra circuit to be able to wheel power is huge, especially if these hydros get up and going and they're gonna generate 24/7. So in the off demand, they're gonna need a place for their power to go.
And if we can.
There's a lot of moving parts to it.
Yeah, but some good direction.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully we can get that done in a year or so.
Thank you.
That's pretty much. Funny how we morph back and talk to power again, right?
So do we have any old business tonight?
No.
Any selectmen's items? Okay, I have one. We need to come up with rules and procedure. With the AARA. They have suggested that we meet 2-on-2, come up with the rules of procedure. And then on the 10th, we're going to have the meeting, and we'll sit there, we'll approve the rules of procedure, and then we'll proceed through how we're going to do things, how we perceive things are going to happen. So we need, sometime between now and then, we need a couple of people to meet with, I believe it's Craig and KB that are gonna represent the AARA.
I'd like to do that.
Okay, anybody else want to volunteer?
I won't do.
Okay, the two Steves will meet with them, and Ron will also be meeting with you. Okay,
When is that again? And what time?
we'll have to work out a time with,
But we wanna have that all done for the 10th, the meeting on the 10th.
yeah, but it shouldn't take a long time. I mean,
No, as long
there's
as,
a lot of moving parts, but it's fairly simple. I
Yeah.
mean, you just gotta get from point A to point C.
yep, as long as we know the guidelines of what we can and
Exactly.
can't do.
Right. Yep. Right. All right. So, do we have anything else? Do we have any public comment? Okay,
Did you guys make a decision on paving at all?
we still need to talk to legal.
Oh, paving?
Yeah,
Oh, well, I'm assuming that road you're discussing, but other than that, you just wanted, we gotta table it still again for next week.
yeah, we're gonna table it until we've got through with legal. Right?
I just wondered if any update on the proposal from Mr. Lash on the, resort, hotel.
No, last time I spoke with him, state of New Hampshire, the legislature had put a moratorium on issuing new, charitable gaming licenses. He is trying to work with some other, entities, but that's the latest. I mean, it's kind of stalled right now. Obviously, you don't want to spend a lot of money until you're sure you're gonna get a license,
That's kind of what we were to, that moratorium for like 20 direction.
Yeah, yeah. But I think there's a new one going up in Wilton. They had gotten their license prior to that moratorium. There's another one, I think there's another one that may not open again, so that license. I think part of that moratorium is they're not gonna, move any established licenses from one location to another. I think Mr. Lash might be trying to, work on that, and see if can overcome that hurdle, because it's kind of silly to have an issued license that's not being exercised. And obviously his plan would, I think his plan was look pretty good. I mean, he's got a facility there that could support it, so. But we'll see, but it's kind of in his court, I told him to reach out if there was anything I could help him with or whatever. Haven't heard anything, so.
Anything else? Do we have a non-public tonight, sir?
I've got more of it.
Could we do a non-public? Cause I kind of like to know what the legal about the road is. This is the first I'm hearing of it. And if it has to do with,
It doesn't, we don't have to be in non-public for
I
that.
just thought if it had something to do with legal, it had to be non-public.
Haven't gone illegal yet.
We just need to dot our i's and cross our t's on. We've got a public, we've been plowing the road, we probably should figure out how we're gonna stop doing.
I know what you mean now.
Anything else, folks? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Have a good night.